Hey there, and welcome to A Well-Rounded Life, the podcast, a space for creative entrepreneurs seeking an intentional life and biz filled with grace, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Jamira. I'm a mama, wife, dessert fanatic, and on the ultimate mission to get you closer to your idea of what it means to live a well-rounded life. Right here is where you'll find curated resources, quick tips, and relatable stories, no matter what season of life you're in. So hang out with me for a bit and let's dive in. Hey friend, welcome back to A Well-Rounded Life. Super excited because I have one of my friends joining me on today's show. Today's show is featuring my friend Kumbi of Legally Set. She is sharing why you should just stop playing around and launch that ish. Kumbi dropped so many gems throughout this episode. I legit was just taking notes throughout, and she's such a wealth of information. So I know you are going to enjoy all that she's sharing with us today. Speaking of Legally Set, make sure you head over to legallyset.com and follow Kumbi on Instagram at Legally Set because she has some really dope contracts for those of you out there that are considering starting a business or you are ready to revamp. And if you use code Jamira, Geomyra, you will save 20%. Yes, 20% on your contract. So again, head over to legallyset.com, check out all of the contracts in her shop, and make sure you get yourself legally set before you do anything else. Let's get into today's show. Hey, Kumbi, welcome to the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thanks, Jamira, for having me.
Awesome. So, Kumbi, before we dive in, how about you introduce yourself to our well-rounders?
Of course, thank you. My name is Kumbi Odubogun. I am a business lawyer based in New York. I am also a serial launcher. I am the founder of Perfect, digital events publication that features luxury parties and celebrations from around the world. I am also the founder of Legally Set, contract template shop that sells ready-made industry-specific contracts for entrepreneurs and launchers like myself. I am also the mother of a very rambunctious 3-year-old. So that is definitely an extra profession that I have found myself in as well. So those are the three things.
And he's the cutest thing ever. And Kumbi shows behind the scenes of real life with him. And it's funny, just like he was doing his virtual learning the other day. And he's everybody right now, tired. He's like over it.
He is over it, fed up, and wants out of anything that involves virtual learning. So yes, definitely he's all of us.
I love it. And something that you said just now when you introduced yourself about being a serial launcher. And what I love about you is that you are not afraid at all to launch various projects, and you're very much multifaceted in what you offer. And so one of the questions that I had for you is, what advice do you have for someone that feels that they shouldn't venture into other fields? They shouldn't launch new things right now, or the things, that we put in our head that distract us from actually going after. So what advice do you have for them?
Oof, my number one advice, and Jamira, I hope I can curse here because it's going to be the same thing as usual, but my number one advice is to launch that shit. Just launch it. That's something that is my entire ministry as far as I'm concerned. I feel like we are the only ones that are holding ourselves back. And there's a quote I saw who I don't know actually who said it, but your fear of looking stupid is holding you back. And that is it. Period. I think as people in my generation and the generation before me and behind me, I feel like we're always just so pressured about what other people will think. And that's truly, if you think about it really deep down, that's the reason why most people don't launch. It's the fear of looking stupid or failing in some form. So my answer to that and my only advice every time is launch that shit, because somebody else is going to launch it for you and you need to go ahead and do it before they do, or even if they do.
Can I get like a t-shirt and
yes,
a beanie and some other things and a hoodie that just has that all on it? Launch that shit in the sense of stop getting in your own way. And you're absolutely right. We all care too much about what other people think of what our end result will be. But at the end of the day, if it's done with intention and you feel really good about it, then what are you waiting for?
Yeah. So what's the worst that can happen if you think about it that way too?
That's so true. And with the many hats that you wear, you mentioned you're a wife, a mom, an attorney, a podcaster, ridiculously amazing blog, and all the things. How do you make time for all of those things and yourself?
That one is always a tough question because I feel like I'm always learning on the go. It's something that I have to adjust and fix as I move. But in general, what I have found is that I just cut myself slack and realize that some of the things won't get done, and that's fine. That's probably the reason why I'm a big advocate for hiring and outsourcing where necessary, because you can't do everything perfectly at the same time. So I just give myself grace and focus on one thing or focus on many things at the same time, whatever my brain will permit me to do at a particular point. I just don't beat myself up about it if one of the balls gets dropped. Like, so if I don't have time tonight to like really be as present as I want to be, like for instance with my husband, which I was just telling you, Jamira, that he's already hinting. But like then I know that I'll course correct and realize that, oh, something's lacking here, and then, you know, give the attention that I need to give and find balance. Like balance is a moving target for me. So for me, it's always like, okay, you're slacking on this one, like you're dropping the ball here, fix, and then I'll bring it back to a level where I know that it's actually able to balance. And if it's not, then I just prioritize, because at the end of the day, not everything is as important at that exact minute as I'm making it seem. So prioritizing and just cutting myself some slack and realizing that it's not an exact science, and I will drop the ball has been the easiest, most freeing thing for me. Like, so freeing.
I love that, because that legit is the epitome of living well-rounded, in the sense that we do have different hats that we wear and we have a lot of things we're managing. But what I love that you just said is you're going to course correct. Some people will get a sign, or they'll hear their spouse or their kids say, "Hey, I need time or attention." And then they'll just be like, okay. And then they keep in the moment of doing the thing. And then sometimes it becomes a bad habit and you can't course correct. And sometimes it gets out of hand and then a whole bunch of mess. So as soon as you start to hear those whispers, then you need to make some adjustments, because you don't want the other side of it, because it happens in entrepreneurship all the time.
Yeah, it does. Definitely. I think it's one thing for you to drop the ball, obviously, because it's natural, and it's not even necessarily dropping the ball. It's maybe you're just like, you may have missed something in terms of how you're balancing, but it's another thing for you to ignore it. So like just making sure that you're at least giving yourself room to course correct, or at least even see if this is a priority for you, is very important. Otherwise, like you said, it will just, it can spiral really fast. And then you find yourself with 700 balls in the air and only yourself to catch all of them. And that can be very, very overwhelming.
And you find yourself lonely, because meaning there's a lot of spouses and friends that you can lose along the way if you don't, put the priorities in place. So just, always in the back of your head, just figuring out what you can handle, and more importantly, what needs your attention in that moment. So that's such great advice. And so, Kumbi, let's go back to the launching aspect of everything. What steps should one take if they have a big idea and they're considering launching their product, their service, their offer? What are some of the first beginning steps that need to happen to take the idea into actually launching?
Okay, so first things first, I think it's really important when you have an idea is for you to write it down, because especially if you're someone like me that has many things just going on at a time in terms of the head, it's very quick for you to let it slip, or like for it to slip your mind, and you will forget and then pick it up again in 6 months. So it's always great to at least write it down. And that's step one. It's a very important step because of the forgetting aspect. And also just so you can properly articulate what it is that you're thinking that you want to do. Second thing is market research. It's so important. There's a reason why people do this. There's a reason why people get paid to do this, is because it's really important for you to see what's out there. Does somebody else already have that idea? Are you okay with that? Is that fine? Does somebody already have the brand name you have in, like maybe the brand name you have in mind? It's great for you to at least do that research. So search Instagram. Instagram has become its own search engine in itself. So search Instagram for the handle, see if anybody is doing anything like it. Check Google as well. Make sure that nobody has some kind of domain with that. Check it in different variations. Even search the name of the idea, not necessarily the act of the idea, not even necessarily the brand name, but search, search, search. Do that ugly work now so that at least you're on an easier step, because it's very uncomfortable when you've already started putting things in place to find out that somebody else already has that particular brand name or has protected it in some way. So after that, then I would say park, Park, park everything, park the domain, park the handles, park it all. Just park it, because even if it's not an idea that you want to pursue now, it's free, first of all, to park social media accounts. So just get use an email address and park them. You don't have to use them anytime soon. And then park the domain name, because literally it's $14.99 or $9.99 in some cases. There's no reason why you should now leave that to chance. I promise you, I've had brand name ideas that I have slipped on, maybe I'll buy it later, because GoDaddy can be really exhausting when I'm trying to buy my domains. So I'll just put them in and I'll be like, oh God, this thing is looking more expensive than I expected. So I'll come back. And then 2 months later, you find out that the domain name is gone, or somebody else is already pursuing it in some way. And that always there's nothing that bites more than feeling like you lost an opportunity. Just park that for sure. And then for me, in terms of putting an idea into action, it's now deciding, looking around and seeing what people are doing that's similar to what you are doing. It's always good. I think it's really important to study it's not necessarily just potential competition, but see how people are responding to the people that are out there already doing that same thing or something similar. Because I think that it's always great, and the more successful people are people that see what's missing in the market, or what is missing in the delivery of what people are doing, and perfecting it or offering a solution to it. So it's always great. Those are the people that will always be in trend, for lack of a better word, but basically people that will be in demand because they have found a way to solve a solution that somebody else wasn't able to. So it's always great to just study that, see what's working, see what isn't working. There's nothing wrong with studying what the competition is doing and making sure that, or maybe if there are mistakes there, then you wouldn't be doing it as well. And then the truth is, from there, it's just time to roll this idea into action. Come to terms with how, figure out how much it's going to cost you if you are able to do that. And then just realize, and the most important thing here, so that I don't just go on and on, the truth is, just remember that it's never going to be perfect. It just never is going to be perfect. And you won't know what is missing until people start actually handling that product or feel like people are experiencing it, so that you can, my favorite phrase is course correct, because the only way you can know how to do better is by putting it out there and then course correcting as needed. So it's really important to do that as well. So you need to stop sitting on it and just because this is the part where after people have done all this work, they start to get overwhelmed and trying to perfect everything nonstop. I'm still editing. I launched my contract template shop in October of last year. I bought the domain and I hired the web developer October of the year before. So I kept literally something that was supposed to take a 12-week turnaround ended up taking almost a year, because I kept trying to make it perfect. And the truth is, and the reality is, it couldn't ever be perfect, because it was, at the end of the day, it was a product that I was looking at from one side, and I needed other people to look at it as well. And the feedback has really helped me in terms of launching a better product. It can be better, but it can never be perfect. And knowing that is knowing peace. So for me, that's always the next step in rollout, is at least, maybe you want to take a survey of your current clients, take a survey of the people, and then actually start trying that idea on actual people to make sure that it's something that's viable, or if you need to change anything, and then launch that shit. There's so many things in between that. But for instance, one of the biggest things is obviously having some kind of marketing strategy before you launch. I think it's always really important, so that you know how you're going to reach your ideal audience, or at least some kind of audience that you can now take a temperature on. Marketing, just because you launch something doesn't mean that people are going to automatically be drawn to it. So it's really important to have a marketing strategy, whether it's for your exact network, the people around you, or the people that you are trying to target. Is a great way to at least start rolling that. And marketing can look like different things. It can look like simple things like social media ads. It could look like even just a simple, solid, consistent social media strategy. It can look like Google ads. It can look like word of mouth. It can look like one-on-one networking. Or it can look like speaking in conferences. It can look like offering your services for free into groups and large communities where, you can barter that for at least some people being able to try and get access to their market pool. there's so many forms of marketing, which is the reason why I'm always hopeful to hire someone that can handle that, because it's just so exhausting. But having that is also having a more long-term and more successful launch.
Oh my gosh. So many amazing tips that I was legit taking notes. I love the idea of the parking because, and then the other thing is I always say it's so you can work in silence, meaning you don't have to tell everybody on Instagram that you bought www. whatever with this idea. I was telling one of my mentees that I have like probably 20 something domains and probably 6 of them are ideas that haven't even come out yet. But at least, like you said, you snag them before someone else does. And I use GoDaddy and domain.com, and between the two is so inexpensive considering how pissed off you would be if someone grabs the name of what you really want. So don't gamble, just grab it and, get the domain that you need. Also the social media handles. I have social media handles that I have snagged that, again, people don't know everything that you have, but when that project is ready to go, everything is cohesive and it matches and it makes sense for the product that you are considering. So I keep that in mind. And then something else, like the marketing research. Oh, that is so important to know what people have tried, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And, you and I were in a Clubhouse chat, I think probably 2 weeks ago, maybe at this point with Akechi, and a lot of people were talking about imposter syndrome and feeling like because somebody else has launched something that you can. And my words of advice to that is people are doing it and you see them doing it, which means it can be done, but how are you going to make it better? That's the goal there. And, this leads into my next question when you mentioned someone to handle the marketing and hired a web developer and all of those things. So how important is it to have a supporting cast, a team, or something similar when you are preparing to launch a new venture and just try something new?
Very important. And that's a really good question. I think one of the most important things and most beneficial things that an entrepreneur or someone that's about to launch, a business owner of some form, can do for themselves is being honest with themselves about what their limitations are. And what not just their limitations, but what they do least efficiently, or what they could do, what can be taken off their plate that will help them progress or be more effective when handling something. This is something that's very true, especially for side hustlers or people that have multiple hats in different things, because burnout will come, overwhelm will come. And what happens with that is that it arrests your progress. So it will stop whatever is going down. It's either going to slow it down to the point where it ends up stopping, or it slows it down perpetually and you're not really able to properly scale the business or launch it the way you want to. So for me, it's really, really important to be aware of that. I know that if I had to do everything myself, it would take me an extra 2 years to get things accomplished. And so it's really important for you to bear that in mind. And that's the reason why I'm so pro outsourcing. I have a podcast called Launch That Ish. And for me, I have a podcast editor. I know some people edit their podcast themselves, but I just know that if I had to sit down and do that, I'm going to just roll my eyes and say, okay, you know what? This isn't worth it. I'm not doing it anymore. So that for me is really important. That's the reason why I think it's great to use sites like Fiverr. I use Fiverr, I use Upwork, depending on what I'm looking to get done. And they do it faster. It's just easier for me to have it outsourced that way. If marketing strategy is not necessarily my strong point, for me, what I found is I'm great in quick bursts in terms of things, but it's something that I have to now be super consistent and honing over and over and over again and things like that. Something that feels like repetitive work, I am not good at that. So I know that it's really important that I give it to someone that I know is versed and specifically great at that to handle it. My email marketing, for instance, with Legally Said, I have an amazing woman called Shannon who handles it for me. So I don't ever she will send it to me to even to sign off on. And it's always in my tone based on things I have personally posted in the past or things I've looked at. She will just basically repurpose them into content. And that has really saved me a whole lot. And my email list is growing because somebody's able to nurture it. That's just even one of the many things. Or maybe I'm not very great with scheduling. I'm not very great with pitching, for instance. That's a big one. A lot of people aren't really great at sales and promoting their work. This is the reason why people hire VAs, PR officers, marketing managers, and people like that, because somebody else is tasked with that particular burden of selling and like, promoting your work, because they are versed in that and they can do that so that you as an individual can now focus on the creative or whatever it is that you particularly find joy in. That is how you change your mind from, to be honest, that's how you change your mind from a hustler to someone that's actually a chief executive officer of your company, because now you're running a company and the company isn't running you, for lack of a better word. And that's, for me, that's the biggest thing.
Man, that is so true. Amen to all of that. Outsourcing is everything. And there are people, I use Fiverr, I have used Upwork, I have a VA, and they work faster than we do so that our genius can be somewhere else and we can actually do more of the innovation and doing the content creation, and they're handling the back end. And Pumi is featured in the Secret Sauce course that I have. And that course is all about getting your business back in order, which is so important when you are trying to launch anything. You just want to make sure your stuff is solid before you put it out. And I say solid, meaning you have your ducks in a row from a legal standpoint and marketing and financial, but we're always in beta. I saw a quote that says, as a human, you are always in beta. You're always improving. You're always trying to. So, consider that as well with whatever you're launching, that even though you might take the beta tag off when it's a couple weeks out, there's always room to improve. So don't be intimidated there. All right. And so after you have launched, what are the post-launch steps that need to happen to ensure a successful launch?
Ooh, that is such a great point. I think one of the biggest post-launch steps is reviewing. It's like taking a review and taking a pulse check as to what you have done. And that is always apparent, and you can find that in whatever your numbers are. I am not a numbers person. So when I say numbers, I mean like your analytics of some sort. Like check and see what did well in terms of any of your like reach outs. How many people came on to, if you have a website, for instance, if you're launching with a website, which I would hope from some people, you check that and see who's coming in. How did they come in? Did any of your methods actually bring out a particular kind of response? And if it didn't, this is where, like, depending on what it is, you first take stock of everything, because it's always good. I feel like the most empowered and most successful entrepreneurs are people that understand the back end and understand the numbers of people that are coming in, or know what to look for in terms of gauging a success of a product. And that doesn't necessarily, sometimes the success of a product isn't necessarily in the numbers of like sale, but it could also be like maybe you're in the brand awareness stage of your marketing strategy, where it's just, I just want to make sure that people are aware of this product. Because launching a new product, that's the biggest thing. Everybody just thinks that it's like, in some cases, you feel like you could just launch and then it's going to have like $1 million in sale. But in truth, there's a period, like for a lot of people, especially new launchers, people that are like going into a new, sometimes a new industry, or maybe a new avenue within the industry that they already are. Sometimes like you could launch and maybe there are not necessarily any sales or anything like that, but the proof is in the pudding in terms of like your social proof. Like maybe people did share it, or maybe people did come in and have parked it for a future purchase or future interaction. That is also a success in itself. And you have to be able to study that so that you know how you can convey the people that came and didn't maybe purchase anything or interact with something into people that will return. And then in that case, then purchase something. Or maybe you're able to then target them specifically and market specifically to them in the future. So knowing your numbers and knowing what they actually mean in terms of whether they're going to be people that you will pursue in the future, or maybe it's just not the product for them, or maybe it's not the client that you need, that will be a great thing. And then also in that, from the numbers, you should also then be able to start studying whether or not you are targeting the exact clientele or the client pool that you're supposed to be targeting. That's another thing. Because when people would launch something and say that it's a luxury product, or maybe it's not in the price point or quality point in which a luxury like customer would purchase, it's something to study. It's not necessarily an indictment on that person's product. It's just something that you would now go back and look and see, okay, so maybe maybe it is a luxury product, but it's not maybe like a super high end, like, like aspirational type product. Maybe it's like I'm targeting a particular pool, and then maybe it's for the working professional, like, which is not like, you know what I mean? Like this is someone that has purchasing power, but you have to target them specifically in a different way. Sometimes you have to target working professionals in a different way than someone that's just spending money left and right without any care for a particular kind of thing. So these are the kind of things that you would now have to go review because it's really important. Or maybe the price point, if you said that it was supposed to be like budget friendly and it's supposed to be like quick, affordable, but the price point is still hovering over a little bit too expensive for that particular budget pool, it's something to study. Like if you're targeting people that are looking for a great deal, an affordable product and things like that, maybe this price point is a bit over that amount. And this is why I am such a big fan of a survey. Like I love surveys sometimes because then you're able to at least, even if it's reaching out to your immediate network and telling them to reach out to their immediate network and having people do this so that you can get an idea of which price point or which income pool you are actually targeting so that you can properly fine tune the course correction again, fine tune your strategy and reach the people that you want to reach. So those are the two things like immediately after a launch that I love to do. Another thing I like to do is take a breath because launch season is exhausting and you put so much of yourself into it. Like there's so much emotion, so much time and so much strength and energy of your own into this product that I don't know. For me, I call it a launch hangover. There's always a hangover after you launch a product because you're just so exhausted and you're so desperate for people to like obviously who doesn't want to see a return on the product and the service that they've launched. So there's always this period where there's a hangover where you're just like super drained. After I launched Legally Said, I think for 2 weeks or maybe even more, I just didn't want to do anything. So all these great things that I'm saying, at one point, I just didn't even want to do any of it because I was just so drained from having to especially since I'm not necessarily a seller originally, but when you find that when you launch a product, you have to turn on a bit of selling in terms of yourself. And for a lot of people, that is an uncomfortable place to be in terms of selling. For me, that's the part that's always like so draining. So I always have this hangover. So it's okay for you to take a breath. It's okay for you to take a breather and just realize that, okay, you know what? A clear, calm mind is much better than an overwhelmed one. And it's okay for you to re-up. It's okay for you to re-energize and come back and then have a clearer eye and final look into what you're trying to do. So for me, that's also very important.
Such great tips. And I really love the idea of taking a breath. In the past, after a launch, I've legit scheduled time out of the office or vacation because it's draining. You're pouring your everything into this project and you want people to love it. But at the end of the day, once it's out, it's out. And so you can do your marketing, you can convince people to buy it. But if you get one sale or 100 sales, you're still going to be tired. So take some time off for sure is so important. And I also love the surveying, getting feedback once you launch your product. How do you like it? Or if it's a physical product, how does it fit? What does it taste like? Whatever it is, just making sure people you're listening to your audience and what they like, what they don't like. Because again, we're always in beta and we can always improve. So those are such great tips there. And you mentioned Legally Set, which is your amazing contract shop. And with Legally Set, I know plenty of clients of mine that have downloaded the contracts, which have been a game changer. I work with a lot of people who are getting started or on a second venture at that point. And so they something fresh and something affordable, which I think is so amazing that your products are very affordable. And so something else that you mentioned earlier is you didn't launch with 50, 60 contracts in your shop. You came out strong. And then even today, I saw you launch some new contracts. And so I think that's great. I'm sure you're listening to your audience, seeing what people need, and then you're developing products based off of that. Is that correct?
100%. Like that's even a thing. And you know what's so interesting? Because I think I launched with 20 contracts or maybe a little bit more than that. And even there are some contracts that haven't been purchased ever. But, it was like, okay, let me just at least put this full spectrum there. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is because it's really important that depending on what kind of product or delivery that you're creating, it's important to at least keep your ear on the ground, even after launch, because then you can add new products. So I have a digital product store, but I'm operating it the same way I have if I did have a physical product store. With clothing lines, they come out with new releases over time, right? Like new offerings. And so by listening and seeing what other people are interested in, oh, hey, I started contracting with a bunch of stylists, for instance. So guess what? I created a styling agreement, which is one of the ones you must have seen recently. And then somebody heard me on another podcast and was like, hey, do you have an efficiency agreement? Didn't think of that. I'm so sorry to the officiants out there. So I created an officiant services agreement because I actually had a client that was a wedding officiant. So basically for me, this is the whole thing I'm talking about. Your business, your brand, it's an ever evolving product. It's an ever evolving organism. Like the people that are most successful, it's not a one and done. It's never a one and done. Like everybody's coming out with iterations. And you said it best. And it's so funny that you said that because I think my pastor said that last week or 2 weeks ago as well at Elevation Church. I was listening to it and the guy that was speaking, the pastor was talking about we're always in beta and that everything, like even as humans, we're always in beta. So I thought that was really interesting that you also mentioned that because that must be a word for someone. Clearly, it has to be. Someone has to be receiving that.
Yeah, you're always evolving and you're always changing. And with a lot of us that have online shops and products and whatnot, I started with a few designs on my online shop and then I added youth sizes because people are like, these are cute. I would love one for my kid. And then I was like, oh, damn, let's do youth sizes. And then the weather changed. And so we added hoodies and beanies when we started with t-shirts. So, you can always just listen to your audience, see what they need. I love the idea also of seasons. Weddings, when the engagement season starts to come around, if you're in the wedding space, well, you might need a contract for these new clients that you're trying to book. And so I think that's, genius to keep adding as people need and you're listening to the audience. That's awesome. And you mentioned your team, like your supporting cast, the people that work behind the scenes, but what are some of your favorite resources or software that you use when you are thinking of launching something or things that you just recommend overall?
Oh, God, I am always purchasing software. That's the problem, but it's also the best thing that's ever happened to me. So like, for instance, I already mentioned Fiverr and Upwork in terms of like freelancing. So like if I'm looking for someone to handle something on a one-time basis or even on an ongoing basis, these two are really great for that. Like Fiverr is more on the one time, I believe, and Upwork is you could keep longer relationships in there. For instance, my graphic designer for Perfect, like whenever I have like inspiration boards and things like that, it's from Upwork and she lives in Bulgaria. So like, it's a great way to get like, you get access to an even larger pool of freelancers. And so you can really find someone that's accustomed to your taste, aesthetic, whatever it is, and get it done. Another thing is even like, for instance, if you don't want to hire someone, then in terms of quick graphic designs and turnarounds, I am sworn to PicMonkey and Canva. I go back and forth between them because sometimes there's something that PicMonkey has that Canva doesn't. Like I said, I just buy all of them. My social media, like God knows which app I don't have. If you want to see your feed and plan it in advance, I use Planoly. But let me tell you, I am also signed up for Tailwind, for Pinterest. I am signed up for Over, for quick, very gorgeous graphics that sometimes Canva, once you use one graphic, everybody else has that graphic. So sometimes I'll go into these other ones like PicMonkey and Over just to get like more cool things to like things that I don't have to think about and I know it won't be as frequent on my timeline, for instance. What else do I use? Oh, Lord God Almighty. I use everything. Like I said, I use Flowdesk for my new email marketing, but I don't handle my email marketing. So I have it handled by someone else. I am grateful. I think I finally have a social media manager. I'm not 100% sure yet, but we're trying it out and she's doing really well. But it's really hard. Social media management is one of the hardest and most vulnerable things that you can hire someone because having that person have your voice, your sound, and also be responsible for that first line of interaction between you and potential clients can be very difficult. And also even being able to like for someone that can work and operate without supervision is really difficult. So it's always, those are the things that always give me anxiety. So like I said, knock on wood, hopefully this is working out. I've been blessed in the past, but I've been handling my social media for like a couple of months and it's been stress. Yeah. So those are the apps. I have Honeybook. I do use Honeybook in terms of some certain parts of my business in terms of like the book, handling bookings and things like that. But as an attorney, I also have my own, I have like Clio, which is the software I use for my legal stuff, just to make sure, because that's more legal oriented. So like I said, there's no software out there that I don't own at this point, but I dabble in all of them.
Yeah, but then from there, you can try to, people can figure out what they like. There are so many great options, and what works for one person may not work for another. And so I think it's great to have options. I use Planoly for social media. I use Flowdesk as well. I've used Honeybook in the past when I was planning, and I have a lot of clients that love it. Fiverr, Upwork, Canva for sure, all day, every day. And I'm going to link a lot of this in the show notes, but you can also go to jamira.com/resources and you'll see links to some of this stuff as well.
I'm all
And
about full disclosure. I also
what else?
I have tried Linktree. I'm using Linktree for one of my websites right now, but then I just heard it on Clubhouse, which Jamira and I are active on. Apart from Linktree, I did hear about Social Tap. And I liked how Social Tap looked, but I haven't actually used it. Somebody on Clubhouse had mentioned it, but it looks more like it's giving me more website-y vibes. So it might be something I will, like I said, I will sign up for a free trial. If there's anything about me, I will do that for sure. And then I also have liked the way Milkshake looks in terms of links in bio. So explore them, guys.
It's funny because I used to use Linktree, and then I heard someone say just create a separate page on your website, like a hidden page. But I do like the idea of stuff being very pretty as well and easy to access.
That's my own problem because I get it. Obviously, I actually from my Kumbi website, like my actual attorney website, I have I just created a page on my website to get SEO or like just maybe even clickbacks onto your website. But the thing about it is it's the ugliest thing. That the links page I created is so ugly, and anybody that knows me knows I love a good pretty palette of some sort, something that I can design and decorate. So I don't know. I need to decide if it's worth it.
Yeah, come back, circle back, and make it pretty because everything you produce, especially on the Perfect side, is just gorgeous and stunning. So you want it to match there. And so looking back on some of the projects that you have launched, on a personal note, what has been one of the most intimidating projects that you have launched in the past?
Ooh, for me, it's 100% rebranding my blog and website, Our Perfect, into Perfect. I think that transition was very intimidating for me because I was basically taking something that was already successful in its own right. And like its name was fine. There was no issues. I do own the trademark because a lot of people thought that was why I was changing and transferring it into Perfect because I wanted to expand the reach. I also want not just the reach as in the numbers, but I wanted to expand what we were talking about. So like lifestyle content and also like, create other things that I'm hoping to launch in the future under that one single brand that wasn't limited to weddings. And that was very intimidating for me because it was just like basically scrapping one thing and starting another in the world of disgusting Instagram algorithm. And like it was an existing pool of clients I was trying to push to, but it wasn't exactly the same people. We lost a bunch of followers when we launched just because, not for any reason other than like maybe that's not the part. They wanted to come see pretty wedding stuff all the time. And it's not necessarily always pretty wedding stuff. So I think that could have changed. And that for me was just knowing that I was making the right decision and knowing like whenever you're relaunching something or launching something new in the place of something old or transitioning from something that people have known you for or are comfortable with, that's always very uncomfortable. Even for my new entrepreneurs out there, you will find, and I've studied every now and then, especially with some people that I mentor too, that you see like once you start talking in a different way than you usually do. Like even people that are launching something for the first time, or maybe they were quiet before and now they're really out there and promoting themselves, whether it's a new YouTube or a new something. There's always people in the comments who are like, oh, wow, wow, this is a new side of you. Or they make some comment like, wow, you're really taking this thing seriously. It all still stems back to the stuff that I mentioned in the beginning. Like your fear of looking stupid, your fear of looking like, what is she even doing? And why is she doing this? She's too old for this mess. Why is she doing this? Why is she dancing on TikTok? Why is she doing all these things? Your fear of all the things that people who do not pay your bills, people who are not responsible for your income, people who are not responsible for your children or your husband, wife, spouse, in whatever, like people that are not responsible for the bills that are coming to your house every single day. The comments and the dependency on their expression or their reaction to your things is what is holding you back. Because the minute you realize that the people that are most successful have no shame, is the beginning of wisdom for all of us. And I think that's the part that even for me, someone that has launched in the past, I always have this period where I'm like, oh, people are going to think this is so silly. Like people are going to think this is that. But the truth is I have found great success by stepping out and doing what is best for me and coming into myself. Because at the end of the day, I am not your average lawyer. I am not your average woman. I'm not your average anything. Everybody is unique in that regard. There's no average is what I'm getting at. So you are uniquely you and you are bringing a particular value. So powering through that and powering through shame is probably the beginning of a successful and a long-term launch, in my opinion.
Oh man, I am not your average woman. I wrote that down. Attorney, I'm not basic. I will use the other word to pair with it, but I won't.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm not that person. But you just, honestly blessed me too with what you just said. Like we have things that we're working on to launch here, and sometimes in the back of my head, I'm like, people will be like, "What?" or "Why?" or "Every someone else is already doing it." And the reality of it is, so what? Let me live.
Exactly. That is 100% it. And like, listen, even with launching a contract template shop, there are contract template shops out there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that was another thing that was in me. I just didn't want it to seem like I was copying anyone. But if there's anything anybody knows about Kumbi, is Kumbi is going to do Kumbi in only her own way. Like, I will deliver my message in the way that I know how to deliver my message. And I will write my contract in the way that I know is going to legally protect someone. And everything that you bring, like you mentioned, Jamira, earlier, just remember, how are you going to do it? A, better or different? Because those two things are what's going to help you stand out. And then you end up finding yourself that you're standing out of the pool because your delivery, your quality, your method, it's all unique to you. And I think it's important that people realize that I could be selling baskets or I could be selling a new brand of water, but the way that I deliver it is what's going to make the difference.
Absolutely. The way you deliver it, market it, package it, and your intention behind it is going to be different than somebody else's. So that's so good. And we touched on this earlier in the beginning of the show. And as you know, on the show, we do not believe in the word balance. And you manage so many amazing businesses, projects, and so forth. So I'm curious to hear from you. What is your definition of living well-rounded, Cindy?
Oh, living well-rounded for me is just like being my authentic self in everything that I do. But also, most importantly, like I mentioned, like we talked about earlier, is giving myself grace. I think that the greatest monster that somebody can find, you find that it's yourself. You're the person that's hitting yourself too hard. You're the person that's feeling one way or the other. And I don't know why, but I'm sure it has something, like I'm sure it's something that we all universally experience. But I think it was when I turned 30 and I was knee deep in infertility struggles and like trying on my IVF to back IVF, and just realizing, and at the same time, I was commuting 3 hours to get to my office because my husband and I had moved to Pennsylvania. And at the same time, dealing with some work issues and different things. And I just realized, like, okay, listen, there's something that we Nigerians say, I can't come and kill myself. Like, that's basically the phrase. And for me, that is when I think I discovered what living well-rounded is. Living well-rounded is doing your best and trying your best to be as intentional as possible with your relationships, whether it's at home or with your friends or the people that mean something to you and the relationships that you want to cultivate. But also remembering that you are one adult, you are one person, and there's only so much that you can do, and it's okay. If your body and your mind is telling you that you need a break, you need a break. And it's okay for you to need a break. If the things that are of value to you, you can prioritize and be there and intentional and like, make sure that the people that love you know that they are also equally loved. Do that. But like, just also know that you are one human and it's okay for you to F up. It's okay for you to like have like dropped balls. And you will still be okay because guess what? The people that do love you will be there and they're there to support you just like they will also be expecting support.
Oh gosh, yes. They will be there to pick up the pieces, wipe the tears, hold your hand.
Exactly.
And so what are you most looking forward to in this next season of your life?
Oof. I am looking forward to more. For me, I'm looking forward to more of a having my life in my own control. Not life in my own control, but like literally, like I don't know when this is coming out. I literally put in my resignation at my firm on Friday. So I'm actually yes, like this is the first time I've said it out loud. So
Say it again.
I am
Full-time entrepreneur. Oh, I just got to chill.
well, yes, and yes, exactly. So I'm creating my own firm, like I'm starting my own practice, and so having that is like this is another launch, basically. It's another launch. It's a mini launch, but it's not a launch that I'm screaming about or anything like that. But dictating like and running my own practice is going to be a very new terrain for me. I have been employed since the minute I graduated, and I went from undergrad right into law school, and I have been like under somebody's employ for so long. Like, so it's going to be a new venture for me completely. This is why I am also a learner, basically in all things business, because this is going to be my first foray into like this aspect of business ownership. So we'll see. But yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to this exciting turn of things. And we'll see.
I say wow because a couple months ago, you and I think we were on the beach.
Yes.
We were talking about this, and I was like, what's the problem? Because you have all of it, and you have so many people that love your products, love everything that you create, everything you touch turns to gold. And so, I just want to wish you all the very best and that the firm just exceeds your wildest expectations.
Amen. I'm really hopeful. And yes, you're right, because we did speak about it in October, and I was like, okay, that's in the back of my mind. But the fear, this is the same thing. Fear, imposter syndrome is like one of those big things that everybody's crutched with, regardless of how much experience you have, regardless of how old you are. It will always still come up and creep up. Like, who am I to be creating a firm? Like, this is for old people, or B, it's for people that have like, lots of money and things like that. But you're right. Like at the end of the day, I'm bringing my best self to the table, and that's going to be enough, especially when I lean on the right support people and people to help me build out my dream, which is very important to me.
No, that's amazing. And definitely it just inspired me. Like it's okay to go after, I'm sure when you got into law, it was like one of your big goals and dreams to do. And here you are actually doing it. A lot of hard work behind it. Absolutely. But you paid your dues. It's your time. It's your season. So I'm so excited for you there. And that's, I'm just going to leave it at that. I had another but I'm mind blown because, you're doing your thing and I love it. So we're going to transition and we're going to do rapid fire questions, have some fun here. I feel like we should be drinking champagne now and toasting up life.
This is really awkward, Jamira, because I just finished a glass of wine.
No judgment.
What time is it? 1:00.
You told on yourself.
Oh my God. Let's pretend this is the evening. It's happy hour.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to get down my green juice.
Look at your juice. Oh, good.
No, I'm turning up tonight. It's okay. My mother-in-law's birthday, so.
Okay. Oh, yay. Okay. Yes.
Yes,
Please.
we'll celebrate her tonight. I'm done. I'm just laughing at you. Kumi is also a good time. She's an attorney and she's very smart, but she's also a very good time. She's a good time. That's all I'm gonna say. I ain't gonna tell nothing else.
Let's leave it at that. Don't tell my business.
Nope, not gonna say business, but she's very much well-rounded and such a good time. So, Kumi, we're just talking about being on an island. So let's pretend you're stuck on an island. What are 3 things you must take with you? You can't take your little guy. You can't take your husband.
Girl, why would I take that boy?
I know he would tear it down, right? Like mine.
Okay, so definitely one I will take, and I'm saying this, yes, because I'm on her podcast, but it's really true. I'll take Jamira because she is also a good time. Sometimes she sleeps too early, but that's a different conversation. I will leave that as that.
I go to bed at 8. Could be a text and be like, come on, you want to come? No, it's 8 o'clock. It's my bedtime.
Talk about well-rounded. Jamira will tell you like, nope, sir, I'm going to bed.
I'm going to.
But yeah, number 2, I will always take my laptop. I'm sorry. I am a huge Netflixer. Like, even sometimes it's just to even hear it in the background, but I can't, like, I have tried, even on my honeymoon, and not necessarily just me, thank God. We need some kind of TV time. So it's really important that that's on your list. And I think third, like, let me think of something else, but definitely please make sure that it's an open bar somewhere, because I just don't understand why I'll go into a dry place and think that it's a vacation. It's not a vacation if there's no open bar of some sort there. Thank you.
There it is. Laptop, me and you, some cocktails, we in there.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly it. A good time.
Run it back. And so when you were little Kumi in Nigeria, what did you want to be when people would ask you, what did you want to be? What was your answer?
You're about to just be bored as hell, but I swear to you, I've known I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 3. So this is terrible. Like, it's so... Even we used to do, like, there's this thing we used to do that we used to call it the fancy dress parties, where you come in costumes. My mom got me a lawyer costume when I was like 5. So this has never been up for debate. I think that's also another thing. Like it's always been, even when I moved here, the only reason why I did business in school for undergrad is because you can't get a law degree out the bat here. So like that's the only reason. Like I've always, that has literally been my only dream, was to be a lawyer.
So what's your favorite food, Kumbi?
Oh, my favorite food is, it toggles between two things. Yam. Yes, yam. I don't know. It's not American yam. So I want to very, very expressly say that. It's African yam, or I think it's name in Spanish. Yam and egg stew. So it's tomato with eggs and the spicy sauce. So, so good. Most people cannot handle it.
My bad. I'm trying. I was saying, you know how I feel about spicy food.
Yes, you see what I'm talking about. Listen, you guys, don't take Jamira anywhere that involves, like, she, like, between sleeping early and not being able to take pepper, and then I call her names, and then she starts feeling like I'm being anti-black to her because there's some things that are said.
Yeah.
Like, Jamira,
I just can't handle it.
don't say it out loud and don't say it outside, okay? Because it's very confusing. Like, and it's not even just like, it's one thing for you to be, it's one thing for you to be black and not eat even crushed red peppers.
No, never.
You see what I'm saying? Like, Jamira needs to be, like, ketchup. Only God knows if she can handle ketchup.
But I just can't handle it. And as I get older with, what is it, acid reflux or indigestion, I take medicine. I'm getting up there. We talked about this. I'm getting old.
Don't even start with me. And oh my God, speaking of, I know we're running through, but like, speaking of spicy food, like when I was pregnant, that was the worst thing that anybody could do to me, was tell me that I couldn't handle spicy food. And I had acid reflux. I was so upset. So I can't even imagine.
You're very well traveled. So what has been your favorite destination that you've gone to so far?
My favorite destination? That's a good question. God, I don't know. I would say, I particularly, and it's so funny because if you had asked me this, like after, like before 2020, I would never have mentioned it, because I've been to Dubai a couple of times, and it's always been, maybe it's because I've been going with my mom and my family or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's not the same experience or whatever. But I actually particularly enjoyed Dubai last year. I thought it was fun. And maybe it was the experience, and it was like, the whole curated experience of it. I really, really enjoyed it. But my favorite destination, and yes, I have been to a bunch of places. For some reason, that is, none of that counts. If you ask my husband and I, my favorite place to go to every single year is Las Vegas.
Oh,
I love Vegas. I love it. I don't know why. It's the same thing with Dubai. And I don't know if it's like maybe just the over exaggeration of it. Maybe the endless booze, most important. I don't know. But there's something, my husband and I have been going every single year since 2009 because we're obsessed with luxury hotels. So we'll spend we'll spend a stupid amount of money on like a very luxury experience, and then spend half of the time in the hotel and then half of the time like gambling the rest of the money that we own. But I swear to you, it's like, it's our if you ask anybody that knows me, they'll be like, Vegas. And nobody understands why. It's so random.
Y'all need a Vegas partner or a bachelorette happening in Vegas. Call Kumbi. She knows where all the hot spots are at this point.
Oh, sure do. And where the brunch is too. That's where, like, oh God, I love Vegas.
If you could meet anyone in the world, who would you want to meet?
Oh, what? One, Beyonce. I need to meet her and just get that out of the way. Like, I mean, that question is even insulting. I'm a card-carrying, active participant in the Hive.
I'm right with you.
Yes.
Oh, fun fact. I saw Beyonce in Vegas.
Oh, no, not 2014.
No, it was before that. I'm told you.
Which one?
It was in 2000. It was called the Encore.
Yeah, it was the one at the Encore, at the Wynn.
The Wynn, yes.
That is one of my favorite concerts. I wasn't there. I have the DVD. Let's leave it at that.
I was there. I was pregnant with my daughter and nobody knew. I couldn't even tell my mom. And she was looking at me sideways. She knew, but I didn't want to say anything yet. But I went with a group of friends, my mom and some of her friends, and we did Beyonce at the Wynn Encore, and it was amazing.
The DVD came out in 2014, but that is probably one of the most intimate performances she's done. I cannot believe that that's where you are. Like, that is amazing. So yeah.
I was going to ask what your guilty pleasure is, but it sounds like it's luxury hotels, hot, spicy food, and Beyonce.
if you can combine all of that, like honestly, like I'm telling you, Jumeirah, one time we spent so much money on a hotel in New York. We live in New York. Just the idea of somebody else catering to us and not having to do the dishes or like take out the linen it's truly for me, that is like top. And it's not like, I mean, for a lot of people that might be an everyday thing, but I think the whole idea of like, that is what I will always spend money on, is that
love it.
It's somewhere between luxury hotels and luxury handbags, somewhere in between.
My rule is when I travel, I'm only staying somewhere that's nicer than where I live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lay my head. And this is, again, you do what you can with what you have. But I feel like if you are going to go on vacation, you're going to go do the things, let's make it worth our while. And you get one life.
Yeah, vacation it shouldn't be struggle. I don't, like, that's another thing. Like, I just don't understand. You really do get one life and celebrate it.
Yeah. So move your money around. Don't go broke. When you travel well. If you take 10 trips, take 5 and make them 5 good ones. Do what you have to do to make it memorable and worth your while. Quality over quantity for sure. And last rapid fire is, what is something on your bucket list?
Bucket list? Oh, God. Oh, you see, it's going to be very frivolous too, but it's to go to Bora Bora. I have it. It's a bucket list item for me, just generally. I just think it's something that I want to experience. At least Bora Bora or maybe Maldives. But I love the idea of living on top of the water for like a couple of days. So why not?
Fun. We got to see just different sides of Kumbi, which I love. Because like I said, good time, but she is smart as all get out, knows her stuff. And so Kumbi, where may our well-rounders find you on the web? What is your website, Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse, LinkedIn, whatever? Where can we hang out with you?
Okay, so I think the easiest possible way now is to find me on, first of all, my contract template shop is called Legally Set, and you can get it at legallyset.com. We have an Instagram handle for that at Legally Set, which is my same handle on Clubhouse as well. If you want to connect with me personally, my Instagram handle is Kumbi at Kumbi the Curator. So Kumbi, KUNBI, THECURATOR. It's a very long handle. Just realize that. So that's where you can find me. You can also check out Perfect. It's at Perfect, PERFETE on Instagram and PERFETE.com. It's also the same handle everywhere else to connect with really pretty things and inspirational content for your next perfect fit.
Love it. Yeah. So guys, go hang out with Kumbi, go follow her, go say hi, let her know that you heard her here on the podcast. Kumbi, this was so much fun. You definitely have inspired me to stop playing and to launch that shit. And so therefore, I will keep you updated on the things that I have going on, and you keep us updated on everything at the new firm. And we cannot wait to share everything you're doing there, support you, cheer you on, and all the things. So thank you for being my guest today, Kumbi, and I look forward to when we can be in person again.
Amen. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
How much fun was that interview? I told you guys you were going to love Kumbi, so make sure you go follow her over on Instagram and on Clubhouse because she always has such great chats and rooms that she hosts on the Clubhouse app. And don't forget to check out Legally Set, legallyset.com, and use code Jumeirah so that you can save 20% off of your next contract template. Thank you for hanging out with me. Be sure to say hello over on Instagram. I'm at Coach for Creatives. Until next time, friends, remember to stay safe, stay positive, and focus on what matters most. See you next week. Bye. Friends, thanks for kicking it with us this week. Remember to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode airs. I'd love it if you leave us a review and share this goodness with your squad. Until next time, seek a well-rounded life and remember to focus on what matters most.